BlackForumSolution.com, International Black Forum, Grand Marine Staffing, Free Life Records. We're going to be talking about this Target boycott fail. We're going to be talking about the Japanese African hometown setup, Snoop's coverage of the Alphabet Lifestyle Mafia. The big boss dog is having some animosity issues, infringing on his grandfatherly time with the Alphabet Lifestyle Mafia. Also, I'm going to be calling, and for this here, I'm going to kick it off with letting you all know that we're going to be focusing on me. We're going to be focusing on the marriage there. All of the accomplishments towards Pan-African repatriation, passport bro, marital structure is still of a positive culmination. Still going to be of a positive culmination. Those experiences were vulnerable with the long distance, but they're going to have a positive affirmation that's empowering to my brides, that's empowering to repatriation and the overall narrative. You're going to have a bunch of knuckleheads, COINTELPRO, New Age COINTELPRO, New Age International COINTELPRO, who they're going to ship off and have tried to distract from the focus. We're looking to have our wedding ceremony in November the 19th. That week would be a great day. And then on the 21st and the 22nd, we're going to be hosting forum events. And they're going to be in Zambia. It'd be best if we could have had it in October, but we're gonna give us a little bit more time for promotion. We are still going to celebrate the October nations who celebrated independence. That would include Nigeria. Yes, that's going to include Nigeria. Of course, you know the familiar itinerary for the International Black Forum events. In the morning, we're going to be hosting our hiring events, our business incubation sessions of expansion and building clients for your businesses. In the mid-afternoon hours, we're going to be prioritizing the fashion section, cultural fashion contributions from the represented nations, tribes, and the different styles of those cultures within those nations in the midday section. And then we're going to complete the evening with the open mic. Performance artists, the creative artists are going to make their creative contributions. And that's going to be a dynamic lineup. Of course, we're going to have buffet style cultures of food, cultural food, buffet style from those nations, those tribes. You can look forward to some delicious culinary selections, great culinary selections. Again, that's going to be November the 21st and November the 22nd. We're going to get the event campaign running soon. And we're going to also look forward to keeping it going on the next year coming up in 2026. Make your selections. We're going to have a selection process where you all can be involved with picking which countries we'll have in the first quarter and the second quarter. We're definitely looking around that first week of August, last week of July, that 2/12 Leo season birthday week of mine. We're going to have something going on in July. July, I believe nations have what Rwanda has independence. I know Rwanda for sure in July celebrates independence. Is the one that comes to my mind off the top of my head. And so we can look forward to that in the second quarter. And we'll be looking, and then we're going to have it involved so that it can be an inclusive process with making these selections. BlackForumSolution.com. Boiler Monk MC, Surface Air Warfare is the qualification. On this next segment, I had some downtime at one of the contracts, and I was addressing the Target boycott and how there's no substance behind it. I'm going to be touching on it some more here. Oh yeah, Jamal Bryant here was calling out Rick Ross here. I have this post I was going to post up to it. I just made some comments to Jamal Bryant. He seems to be one of the front advocates of the uselessness with this boycott, this so-called boycott that's of no substance, and he's pocket watching Rick Ross as a consumer. with the article saying here at the Atlantic Black Star that, every day we shouldn't be hustling, is the quote they're saying of Jamal, to put Rick Ross so-called on blast for riding around Target with new girlfriend amid community boycott. Again, this next address, next few minutes, I'm going to spend like 15 minutes talking about that. And I just basically, I'm talking about the marriages, and that's what I had in this post response. Jamal Bryant, I'm pretty sure that the marital rate of his church isn't at the marital rates of churches that are in Africa. Rick Ross has spent some time in doing some South Africa tours, yeah. So, he's an advocate of Pan-Africanism, so I don't feel bad supporting him in that. And so, focus on your marital rates with your congregation, and if you're focused on those marital rates, you're going to have great numbers, great tangibles of your leadership with your congregation that'll be beyond and a better substance than a boycott with Target. Another current topic that I was seeing here that I want to touch on here is the Atlantic Black Star as well. Their coverage of the Big Boss Dog, the article from Snoop dealing with the backwardness, alphabet lifestyle of social engineering, and notice whose post the Atlantic Black Star shares. Look up on the screen here, as Nefakari say. Take a look up on the screen. And they have a post from the account here is Crypto Hotel, and what they're doing right here, and the consensus Pan-African leadership, what they're showing is that the consensus Pan-African leadership, when you see that hotel, that's a representation of Pan-African leadership, okay, and it has priority. Our priority from the Pan-African leadership is a single African currency, our backing of currency with our resources, the minerals and so forth that we have on the continent. The priority of Pan-Africans is a single currency and backing that currency with our natural resources. The multi-billion-dollar asset manager Melody Hobson advised us to avoid the counterfeit crypto hoax. So what you have here is the Atlantic Black Star projecting a fiscal false pretense of Pan-Africans supporting counterfeit crypto hoax. Okay, that's what they're promoting when you see a post that's, someone who's culturally significant. Atlantic Black Star recognizes that Pan-Africans have the moral authority. They're not posting descendants of Martin Luther King or civil rights leaders, or they know that we're dominating the narrative that's not distracted with a George Floyd hoax or climate change and all of these things that they associate with woke. They understand, the Atlantic Black Star understands that it isn't consistent with, Pan-Africanism. And so that's why they placed the Hotep up on there. With, again, that false pretense of Pan-Africans supporting the counterfeit crypto hoax. Okay, we know when you're talking about Hotep, we're talking about Kemet, the original genesis of the term woke that you hear echo chambers misrepresenting in every other sentence. Okay, associating woke with the alphabet lifestyle, woke with the welfare state, woke with anti-MAGA George Floyd hoax insurrections. All these fringes just mentioned as woke were the ones telling you to get the genocide COVID hoax jab, okay? The real Hotep woke people of Kemet-based Pan-African philosophy told, okay, it was based on, the real Hotep woke people of Kemet is based on Pan-African philosophy, okay? And we told you not to get a COVID hoax jab, genocide jab. The real Hotep woke people of Kemet-based Pan-African philosophy support traditional marriages. Okay, the real Hotep woke people of Kemet-based Pan-African philosophy wasn't going for snow bunny chasing George Floyd insurrection hoax. We wasn't going for that, okay? The real Hotep woke people of Kemet-based Pan-African philosophy are not supporting welfare and Section 8, okay? And so I like to make that differentiation. You get bombarded every other sentence whether it be the conservatives misrepresenting the ideas of wokeness, or the false pretense liberals trying to claim the moral authority of Pan-African wokeness, which is the example here that Atlantic Star is doing by, associating this crypto hotel situation with the Snoop uncomfortable situation with the projections of these lifestyle, these backwardness, and they're very vicious with this lifestyle. That's why immediately they sent the guy Porter to say that Snoop is a coon, called him a straight out coon. He goes straight to the height of disparaging remarks as a homosexual, calling him something as wretched as a coon, for saying that, hey, we want to continue life. We don't want to be genocide off and have depopulation, and and he gets called a coon. That and they do other things that I told you with my son. Immediately taking my son, knowing I'm a Pan-African, saying let's vote for what's in our best interest at that time is MAGA. We had the best position to ride the MAGA wave. Immediately my son's target. I'm an honorable sailor, no criminal record, 6 digits and all that type of stuff. And they still take my son, immediately have him planned with his passport lined up with trafficking homosexuals. So these people are pedophiles. They're structured within pedophilia and protected by the courts, enabled by the courts, paid by the courts, because Patrick Murphy had no problem administering checks every other court date while denying me access to the court, still paying who was supposed to be my pro se assistant. They were still getting paid. So you can't accuse me of neglect by not providing me with court dates, but paying the attorney who's supposed to make me aware of the court dates during the COVID hoax, which is sealed courts denying access to the courts. The video I have, even on YouTube, when I finally was able to get you guys to give me a court date, you mandated it be a phone call in, and then you suppress the phone call so that you can continue with your kidnapping, neglect, false accusations, using your first district. They facilitated too. Carl Walker, the Howard graduate, Miss Johnson, Sanjay Taylor, all of them cause wrath from my Lord. Okay, and so Snoop decide now to speak out against this homosexual agenda is great. It's great. Understand that it's deep, and that these people who are associated with it, they'll stop at nothing to run with their agenda. And people like Trump, you can't be suppressing grassroots for the status quo. The status quo people who you can get the flip from the Dems to you all, then you place them at the forefront. You call yourself placing them at the forefront of the moral authority. And that's an example of what this African Black Star, you're taking Pan-African talking points and you're hijacking them without a sincere commitment towards the agenda and philosophy of self-determination that we need. Okay, and that's something that we have to be able to recognize. I'm finding confusion. I have confusion with understanding. Bear with my grays in the nose. Hold up, the grays in the nostrils too conspicuous. I don't understand what's the benefit. There's a lot of celebration that's being done about the Target CEO resigning. There was recently here in Chicago some arrests made, well, not arrests, but some firings made with Target as a result of employees. I believe that they were set up in some type of entrapment. And that's what I said before the resignation. It was followed by the resignation, and I think it kind of confirms my suspicions that there was an entrapment, maybe an entrapment. If it would have, maybe they would have. Yeah, if it was, I think maybe they would have done it more widespread. It would have been more widespread. We'll see if there's more arrests with that insurance glitch. People were taking out a loan any loan type of situation where, when you talk about the PPP loan, I call that an entrapment loan. You have these guidelines that are supposed to be met, and if you have guidelines, and red flags are supposed to be alarmed, when you have certain, when you have triggers for those guidelines not being met, that that you're supposed to be looking out for. And then when you see a trend in certain areas of it not being met, then there should be grounds for suspicion. And then when you analyze it, though, even the guidelines were established to entrap. The guidelines are set up to entrap. If you see a situation where someone, I believe it was saying that they would, you would get I think it was like $2,500. It was saying, but they only got to pay back $3. And so, as they were saying in the comments, if something is too good to be true, it is. It's going to be. And I don't think they're going to prosecute with that situation. It sounds like it's a tort. It's a tort situation. But they're prosecuting with PPP, with fraud, and saying just the application process being fraudulent. If you're submitting information that isn't accurate, then that's criminal prosecution. And so we'll see. But I thought that it may have been an entrapment situation with the employees to avoid unemployment payments. And then right after that, we have the situation with the CEO resigning. But I don't see any reason to celebrate the slump that they're attributing to DEI, the DEI boycotts. As I said, I get good customer service when I go to Target. I believe back a few years ago, there was coverage of Target having concentration camp labor with hiring those in the jail, hiring those, and so that wasn't the grounds that was attributed to the recent boycott. The boycott is basically, having a lack of agenda towards, to counter the Trump successes. It's to spite the Trump successes. So we're going to, boycott Target. Before, to spite the Trump successes, we had the George Floyd escalation that I believe was a staged, sensationalized situation there with shock troops, who they can send on suicide missions there. You have suicide setups when you talk about George Floyd being killed by the person who he worked with. He worked with this man and then ends up being with this man's wife. And so these are staged scenarios, staged sensationalized scenarios. And even if it wasn't staged per action, definitely the sensationalized media coverage to make it the 2010 Emmett Till. I think that's a sensationalized, staged event to spite the successes of the Trump administration. And so that's pretty much what this Target celebration of their economic troubles. I don't see that as being something to celebrate, as being an accomplishment or being successful strategy for African American interests. I
think they have any problems with hiring people there. They don't have any problems with hiring people. They're saying DEI. So they're basically just saying that, Target is supposed to put money. It's an extortion to say that, hey, they're supposed to put money behind the false pretenses of DEI when they're about actions of hiring black people. I see plenty of black employees. I'm pretty sure there's plenty of black employees up and down their chain of command. And so, I don't, the DEI boycotting is not saying that they're not stocking, products from, black entrepreneurs. They're stocking products from black entrepreneurs. So what's the problem? What's the problem? This is what I'm seeing as being the chief news cycle of black media publications. My mentor here, Amin Hartman, she's covering it. It's been an accomplishment. And so I'm not seeing this as being an accomplishment, the boycott of Target. It's a distraction from self-determined business development, business incubation that we need to be shown that we can then use Target as a platform for our business incubation. Okay, and this isn't consistent with supporting the business incubation. And so it's a distraction, it's a flaw, and I hope that we correct it. Let's have initiatives that isn't spiteful towards Trump being a successful servant. Okay, let's have successes with business development, with being brotherly with the continent. Hopefully August had a lack of success with the boycott. I had an incident in Atlanta where I was attempting to host the event. I don't want to bash Atlanta. The people, as far as the advertisements, were responding wonderfully. But I don't want that response that was wonderful from Atlanta to then have me appear as incompetent by not having the catering service. I needed an hour early to set up. And, a simple communication like that with the venue owner was not being responded to in a timely manner. And when I booked the venue, it said that he usually responds within an hour. And he responded within an hour of me booking. And then when it came time to these simple communications, hey, can I come in an hour early? That was ignored for days. I was told that the microphone would not be available in that first response after the initial booking. And so my response immediately was, hey, let me book the microphone. Days go by with no response for the microphone for our open mic. And so, of course, the next time I'll just have my PA equipment on hand. I'll rent PA equipment separately, itemized event planning, if you will, itemize the event planning. And I'll just book an hour and have included in the booking the setup time. And so that's what I'll do next time when we host in Atlanta. And that's how we'll do that. Apologies again to all of the wonderful support that Atlanta was reaching out and demonstrating with the advertisement. And we're going to follow that up, and we're going to definitely continue to build on that for the Forum, International Black Forum. Grand Marine Staffing. I'm doing a lot of studying here for my code here. Of course, the Grand Marine Staffing is going to give excellent training for those who have military backgrounds, such as myself. Department of Labor apprenticeship that you can acquire doing that. Enlistment, during your enlistment. You can, of course, qualify to do that through that program. and it's, it pretty much gives you great. You're given great recognition. You won't have any problems throughout your career obtaining, your six figures with that accreditation. But with this accreditation, this is gonna then allow me to do the training programs that I want to do personally. It'll give more accreditation towards my programs, my own programs, beyond my naval certifications and other certifications that I have. This will be another great one that then as well allow the reciprocity amongst a lot of the states. And so I'm going to be wrapping that up, finishing that up, and then that'll add to some administrative attributes that we want for the Grand Marine staffing for the portion of the itinerary with the International Black Forum when we're doing our hiring, our executive summaries in the morning phases of our events, between the 9-10 a.m. to 2-3 p.m. is when we're going to be having our career business portion of the itinerary. Again, expanding businesses, doing the hiring fairs, covering the training, the labor structure. And so, these type of things we want to be working on, to ride this 45, 47 wave, the prosperity of this wave. We want to focus on businesses, not the victim Olympics. I don't think that there's a need for boycotting businesses. There's a need for building businesses, building families, and this is the root cause solution to most of the effects that we spend too much time to. We spend too much time dealing with effects without root cause solutions, okay? And let's deal with root cause solutions. Any type of hiring disparities that people feel would be addressed with training and building businesses of parity in areas where you feel that there is a disparagement, which I don't think there's. I think that disparagement would be overcame with merit. It'd be overcame with merit, and of course, as I'm saying, the business incubation. People see the business incubation. They're gonna want access to the talent. They're not gonna want the talent to go towards. They're not gonna want us to saturate, to have all the saturation, a concentration of the talent in our incubation. And that's what we're going to have. When you talk about the population of Africa, we're going to have, if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing with the incubation, there's going to be a concentration of talent that we can then, be empowered with in different sectors throughout the world. And having cross-training and cross-cultural collaborations is supposed to be the vision. Okay, and Victim Olympics is not consistent with that cross-collaboration of talent. All right, it's the Bull Monkey MC. Surface Air Warfare is the qualifications. BlackForumSolution.com, Free Life Records, since 2004. Shout Tidewater. So we can get, and another thing, I want to touch on that's dominating the news, we speak about the resilience, the affirmations of Pan-Africans being respected as the best solutions in areas such as immigration. I've been speaking about a lot of that recently. Of course, I've been correct as well about the forecast that we projected with the tariffs. That's continuing to come and pass. I like how Trump today, it is August the 27th, 2025, and he was just talking about, how all the doom and gloomers didn't reach fruition. A lot of, big fiscal
publications, Wall Street Journal. A lot of these guys didn't get it correct as I did, and I was pretty comprehensive with my analysis. And it's mirroring a lot of talking points of the economists who are currently speaking on the positives of it, of that part reaching, the projections that we saw in 2016 through 2019 is what I referenced during that address, and they're coming to pass. And and I'm sounding like a brilliant economist, as a humble electrician here with those forecasts in that last months before the inauguration is coming to pass. So that's something that's of great pride that I like to associate with the International Black Forum, and hopefully we can continue to make those successful analysis. I'm viewing this. We talked about the no tariffs, the tariffs being lifted from China with all of the countries. We have outstanding news of solidarity being reported from Japan, offering Pan-Africans, not FBA. And I'm not saying that Japan is boycotting FBA, but they understand, and I'm going to get to that. With this Palki Sharma post, I watched her, and the tone. She calls the Japanese solidarity with Africans a bet. As though they're gambling with us. The prime minister said, "Hey, he's ready to get out there and sweat, laugh, and build development with the Pan-Africans." He didn't say anything about a bet that one of my favorite journalists, Palki Sharma, speaks of. They didn't call it a bet. They seem a lot more brotherly in the expectations, and so I'm happy about that. I'm excited about that. As I say, Pan-Africanism is a solution for not just our empowerment, but for empowering humanity. Okay, and this other video has a sister who is, and then with some other visitors, you're gonna have different. Palki, I thought had a very indifferent. She was very indifferent from a perspective of bad expectations. There are some sisters here, some twin sisters who are on the continent. Their page is Twins Hanging Out Kenya. Japan begging black folks to go fill up their cities. Much watch. And I just thought that was a disparaging title to say that they're begging. I would definitely not characterize it as begging. I think it's being harmonious, worldly harmonious. It's a relationship of praise. I don't want to say begging. That's an arrogant assessment, because it's a mutual beneficial relationship. When you talk about the intellectual capital, the strides of progress that we'll be able to make, and the opportunities from those collaborations of developing Africa with unique tones and innovations. It doesn't have necessarily with those relationships with Japan would give us that type of scientific STEM collaboration to have that type of contribution to society. And so that's not something you want to speak disparagingly against and poke out your chest and pride as far as belittling the brotherly outreach, you see. And they had a sister. So you're gonna be weary of people who are insecure about that. A lot of wannabe feminists, from what I'm seeing in reviewing this, is a feminist inclusion in the objection of this bonding that that Japan is seeking. And I saw in one of the videos they had a sister. They gave a very long segment in which she was, they had the sister. She was visiting Japan, speaking very disparagingly, as though Japan has, raving hordes of rapists running around preying on the young ladies. Okay, and this projection will gain participants that still would not represent consensus of any value in numerical strength nor in moral authority. Okay, this is going to be a harmonious, as far as us being given his hometown. Yeah, so this is going to be a harmonious, revitalizing relationship of culture. these respectable bodies, such as Japan, I'm not reaching out to FBAs. I'm not, again, as I said, I'm not saying that the Japanese are boycotting the FBA, but they absolutely understand the uncompromising priority and pecking order of black leadership ranking with the Pan-African self-determination doctrine philosophy being the most superior when you talk about the ranking of black influence globally. Okay, they're not going to, place their collaboration with reactionary, volatile in the relationship, and as far as being vulnerable, having those centralized goals of state, and so, this is a great opportunity for development cohesion that's global. Okay, and I spoke about the article from Snoop here, and those aspects of the woke Kim, and yeah, I just that opportunity with Japan, use your discernment with interpretation of the media coverage of that, and again, you don't want to be vulnerable with the immigration. This is a situation where, again, Pan-Africans have the best philosophy towards immigration. We're going there to develop. Okay, we're not going there to escape the traditional household, to bash men. We're going there to better ourselves for the continent. Okay, better ourselves for the continent. Aid reproductive goals of countries where we're at. Polygamy is key. Polygamy is going to be the key, and that doesn't mean, and that still will encourage a balance for the native indigenous, in this case, Japanese in their land. I don't think it'd be a threat when you talk about people saying, oh, they're going to have you segregated off. And no, we're going to be encouraging through our reproduction, through aiding with the workforce, that'll allow them to focus on reproduction. It'll allow many cultural fusion, the cultural fusion that's of Africanity is inherent with reproduction. Okay, it's inherent in reproduction, and it's going to aid. We had the baby boom here in the States. When Americans were more in tune with our traditional Africanity, and so that's just us being in proximity with embedded, ingrained Africanity with reproductive responsibilities is going to be a mature influence on the overall population if we're allowed to operate within our element. Okay, we're not operating within our element in the black village in America, and so that's why the reproduction, the culture, as far as the music, all of these things are impacting America now with with reproductive responsibilities and goals.
78% of black husbands were in their homes married to the mother of their children when they started the social engineering of the welfare state. Fast forward 50 years, 78% of black children are being raised in single-headed.
And so, yes, the solution of that is going to be African Americans reconnecting with the continent. That's going to be a solution for that as well. It's going to be a solution of that as well. Otherwise, you're going to be vulnerable. Your sincerity towards marriage is going to be preyed upon. The 78% marriage that we had as one of the highest percentages of marriages being African Americans, that's now reversed to 78% out of wedlock. It shows you how vulnerable it is to have that much strength, be that compromised and attacked, that complete. Shows that the only solution now is the continent, where you have 90% marital rates in a lot of the countries, like Lusaka, 90% marital rates. Okay, the whole culture when you walk around and when you're riding around the city is for love and raising the family, and that's what we have to ensure is the priority. It's the boiler monk MC. Cirque said warfare is the qualification. African Time News. Grand Marine Staffing, blackforumsolution.com.